back to another epicast. It's your favorite homegirl, Coriel, here to encourage you to stop playing with your potential and start working for what you want in life and in love. You already know that I'm bringing you the information and the conversations to help you make the money and get the honey. You can have it all as long as you are willing to work. And today we have a working woman in the building. We have Dr. Loren Josephs in the studio.
Hey,
welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here.
So for y'all that don't know, Loren is the Jamaican pronunciation of Lauren. Okay, we real basic over here. Okay, y'all are fancy with Loren. Now, every time I have someone of Jamaican descent on my show, because I consider myself to be Jamaican, I always ask for a patois lesson.
Okay, all right.
You ready? Okay, help me.
Yeah, just in greetings, you say wapm or wagwan.
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 Wagwan. I did too much.
It's like wah. Yes, so there's an inflection. Wagwan.
Wagwan.
Or why you depan.
I'm sorry?
That's just another way.
Wait.
Why you depan.
Okay, don't
Like
tell me
what's
what it
up?
means. What? Say it again.
Why you depan.
Why you depan?
Yeah, that's
What
like
the hell does that mean?
like what's up? It's just
What's
very
pon? Because I hear that a lot.
Pon means on. Like it's like what are you on would be the literal translation of it, but it's like what's up.
Okay, do another one. Do another phrase.
Okay, like in terms of what?
Well, let me tell you what confuses me.
Yeah.
Y'all lose me when you do the mead and the fee.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Okay, so fee is for and fa also means for, but it depends on the context
See,
that
be
you
the
use
part,
it in.
that be the
Yeah. So it's like if fa is at the end of a sentence and fee would be in the middle of a sentence.
Okay,
Yeah.
now you all see why I get a lesson every single time and I still am back at square one. I'm sorry.
Like why they go over there so far, or why they look over there so far would be why are you looking over there? You know, for what reason are you looking
What
over
are
there?
you looking over there for? Okay, say it again. Say the sentence
Why they
again.
look over there so far?
Girl, there is literally no way I would have gotten that from that. But that is why I am still at square one. Okay.
Yep.
Well, we did not do that. I'm going to stick to Spanish. Okay, so Dr. Loren,
Yes.
you have done so much reading your bio, preparing for this conversation. I'm like, oh my God, where do I start? So where I would like to start is your professional start with in the mental health space.
Yeah.
So talk to me about what did you study in school that led to that
so
space?
I have a master's and specialist degree in mental health counseling.
Okay.
And when I started my career in mental health, I was actually working with youth who were involved in the juvenile justice system. And so I had to go into homes. That was my job. I had to do home visits and provide the counseling services in home. And so as I was visiting these homes, I started to notice a lot of connecting threads, the similar challenges that people face, many of them who looked like me. And, you know, as an immigrant, my experience as a Black person was different than the experience I've had in the United States. And so it really started to interest me in, the social determinants and structural determinants that impact the outcomes that Black people face. And so, I'll stop there.
So what is the biggest difference? Because I've said this before. I know y'all be feeling some type of way when I say it, but I'm just basic Black. Don't have any connections to any family outside of this country. I can't speak patois. I don't have an accent. I'm just basic Black.
Yeah.
I'm always so intrigued by the experiences of those of you that have roots that can pinpoint your people. And you just mentioned like your experience as an immigrant is much different from a Black person that was born in America. What's the main difference?
You know, I can say the strongest difference that I had as a child growing up in my formative years was representation. I didn't lack representation.
Right.
So my teachers were Black, the dentist was Black, the doctor was Black, the guy who was a pickpocket was Black. So when
on every level they were Black.
So when you're looking, there was always an example that you could reach for at the highest heights, you know? So, and then coming to the United States, the first school that I went to, I was the only Black person in my class. And so
that had to be culture shock.
Yeah. And I really started to learn what Blackness meant because then I started to think back, oh, this girl who I went to high school with, she was white, because there wasn't any basis of understanding. It was more cerebral. Okay, we know this, the slave ships, there was enslavement of people in the Caribbean. So it was like in the books, but then now coming to a place where there was systemic oppression that I noticed that, over time. I'm like, wow, it's
So slavery affected us much differently.
Yes, yeah, I would say so.
What is the perception, or how is slavery viewed in Jamaica versus here?
We learned about slavery, and I can talk about my experience and my interpretation, because we're not a homogenous group.
Yeah.
People will have different experiences. But when I was raised, I knew that these were my forefathers, and what I learned about was the strength that we had as a people. And I learned that we were capable of anything. So there was no arbitrary limit that I couldn't cross. And I grew up believing that. I believed that I could be anything I wanted to be. I could be anyone I wanted to be, and I didn't question that. And so in Jamaica, we have this saying, "Willikabot right? And it means that we're small, but we're mighty. And even as I'm saying it, I'm getting goosebumps, because that was just the way. It's almost an indoctrination, a good indoctrination, because you realize the beauty in your people. So, not everybody is like that. My family was strongly like that. And my just the core area where I navigated was like that. And I think it really influenced how I still move through the world today.
It's so crazy how the literal same exact experience, depending on how you view it, is going to dictate like what you get out of it and how that affects you. So you all take strength from it. Like, if we could get through this terrible, unimaginable thing, I can do anything.
Yeah.
In America, it's more so, or it can lead to like the victim mentality.
Yeah.
Like, we are so set back because of this thing that we've been through. Like, we are starting from a deficit. We are starting beneath, other cultures because of what we've been through, versus a sign of strength. Like, because we've been through this, if my ancestors can do that, it ain't nothing that I'm dealing with that I can't do.
If you just look at how people evolve, we are here because our forefathers survived the Middle Passage. Don't let me get started, Ms. Coriel.
I love that, though, because it's like a story of strength and survival versus like this victim story of...
So we have the genes of the people who were able to withstand all sorts of atrocities. And
that's in us.
Yes.
It's in us, too, so we can tap into it. I think another thing that I've seen, and I think you're kind of referencing this as well, in Jamaica, it's not like we're black people. It's like we're Jamaicans. Yes.
And there's some people who will say, well, Jamaicans think they're not black. And I haven't found that to be true. There's a whole colorism thing that goes on. Well, that's another day's conversation. That is alive and well in some segments of the community. But we are taught to be proud of our heritage. And so when we claim Jamaica, it's not that we're abandoning blackness. It's that Jamaica, it flows through our veins. We no matter where we go, Jamaica is our home. And so we represent loudly.
So I follow an Asian lady on Instagram.
I know who you're talking
You
about.
know who I'm talking about?
She rubs people the wrong way.
So again, I'm just American. This same experience, what I'm about to say, when I went to Mexico and I saw Asians, like Mexican Asians, that was my mind was blown. Same thing with this lady, but her whole thing is, I'm not an Asian woman in Jamaica, I'm a Jamaican.
Yeah.
And to us in America, that's just a foreign concept, because we identify, you're this, you're that, you are American, but you're a Native American, you're Asian American, you're African American, you're a Mexican American. It's not like we're just all American.
Right.
And I imagine that has had a positive impact on
Yeah,
you.
now I've seen when I grew up in Jamaica, there was one TV channel, and people might look back at that and think that it was a bad thing. I think that when you're exposed to a broader swath of the universe and you start being exposed to different things, there's good and there's bad from that. And I think one of the things that has filtered into some segments of from my perspective is that there's now this need to attach an ethnicity.
That's
to
how you have to identify.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that wasn't. I was raised as a Jamaican, and then we were taught out of many one people, and so the Asian people were largely moved to Jamaica to become indentured servants back in the day too, and so there are many different nationalities of people who are in Jamaica. Certainly, the population that are African descendants are the largest group.
So is there a concept of interracial dating in Jamaica? Like, is that a thing?
No.
So if you, as a Jamaican that's descendants came from Africa, marry someone that's descendants came from Asia, you are obviously different ethnicities, but it's not seen that way.
It's not, there's not this sense of it like it is in the United States where, we look and say, so I couldn't go find a black woman, or it's like couldn't this person have found a black woman? So it's not like that. What my experience and understanding has always been that there is a thread of classism that exists, and so depending on your money and whether you live on the hill or then that becomes a factor. That becomes a factor, and so yeah.
So how did that affect? Because when did you move here? How old
When
were
I was
you?
13 years old.
Ooh, sweet spot in life, right?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay. So how did that affect you dating here?
I just knew the way that I was set up that I was gonna have to be a Jamaican person, just because.
But could it have been an Asian Jamaican?
Well, I like black men, so for me it could have, but it just where my eyes naturally fall
Gotcha.
wasn't that, so we're attracted to who we're attracted to, but I knew that it would be a Jamaican person because there's a lot to explain otherwise.
That part. I literally, for years, like a decade, my hairstylist was I have locks now under this wig, so I don't go to her as often as I used to, but she's Jamaican, and she complained to me one time, like, if you don't eat fish heads,
Yeah.
I just can't, I'm not explaining this anymore, and if you look at me like this is disgusting, this is not gonna work. Like, this is who I am. I'm not gonna stop eating this, so I can very much understand that.
It's the whole fish. I mean,
That's
if you
just the
talk to
thing.
mommy will tell you that the fish cheek is the sweetest part of the fish. Like, ask me the cheek of the fish. Like I look at her like, okay, but
Listen, when I'm at a restaurant and I see that red snapper coming across, and the eyeball is looking up at me, I'm just like, that's where I draw the line.
I chop it off, but I use it to make fish tea though.
What is
Fish tea is that what we call fish soup.
I was gonna say, okay, wait a minute, you're not sipping, but I guess you kind of still are.
Wow. We call it fish tea in Jamaica. You would call it fish soup, but Jamaicans call it fish tea.
Interesting.
You see,
okay.
it's a whole heap of things.
You like, I'm not about to explain all of this to you, so you need to come get with the program. That makes sense. Okay, so you got here, you studied, you got both of your degrees, started working with children. What were some of those things? Because we often have these conversations about how adults relate, and it always leads back to your childhood.
Yes.
What were some of those consistent things, those common denominators that you were seeing that's like, okay, we hear the statistics of growing up in a single parent home. What were some of those things that you were saying?
It was people who were precariously housed, people who were moving from couch to couch, individuals who couldn't make the rent, make the basic needs. And when you look back through the parental line, you'd see a lot of abuse. There was a lot of individuals who were sexually abused, or in relationships where there was violence, or you had individuals whose caretakers were absent because they were incarcerated. And so a lot of these factors that you see are what are called adverse childhood experiences, ACEs. And it really impacts how individuals see the world and how they move through the world. And so sometimes when we look at it, or individuals who have been fortunate enough to not have to navigate some of those challenges in life, look at it and feel, why is it that they're still stuck? And this happened a long time ago. When you are negative, when you are harmed at a time in your life when nurturing is what is most important, then it creates a break, you know. And so when we talk about like arrested development, you know, not the group arrested development, but you see some people whose development stops at the time of the trauma. And so now they're navigating the world as a 30 and 35-year-old woman, but they are really a 12-year-old child, because the concerns, the issues that they faced at that time have not been resolved. There was no opportunity to resolve it. And so that was the connective threads that I saw, particularly in individuals who are living in poverty, but even people who were wealthy. The ones who were in the juvenile justice system, there was a pattern of trauma also present in their lives.
Interesting, because you would think, or so many people think, you know, when you can give your kid everything, you know, they have everything. Why would they have any issues? Like, I've paid for everything, I've provided everything, and that is not always like the most important, the utmost. That's
because
what's going to
the
affect
strong
you.
bonds, you know, strong bonds, nurturing bonds cannot be developed in absence. So you might have the nanny, but your child may need you. And so, you know, money does a lot, but it can't do all.
That part. So I literally I didn't get rid of her. She kind of quit, but I had an au pair. And although I loved the convenience of having a live-in nanny, once she left and I got over the initial shock of like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to take care of my old kids myself, I really started to think like, I needed to take care of my own children. The crutch that this au pair was providing, it was really, although it was convenient, there were so many moments that I would have missed if she would have stayed. And I think the convenience of all of these things sometimes is taking away from the connection that we should have with our kids.
It definitely is a balance, and it's hard because you're a working mother. You know, you are brilliant and talented in your own right, trying to forge your path forward. And so, you know, I'm a mom myself, and so I understand that there's give and take, and there's sometimes guilt when difficult choices have to be made. But no, I feel you on that one.
So what did you take away from that career path that you have used now as a mother with your own children?
I understand the importance of time. Time is fleeting, and I make choices. I always with that knowledge, because so many people who we're working hard and we're working intentionally to be able to have a legacy for our children. The kids right now need us now too. And so I realized that there were a lot of absent parents, not necessarily because they were working, but when parents are incarcerated, or, you know, the grandparent is raising the child. I saw quite a bit of that. There's always this yearning in the children. And particularly where girls were concerned, there's always this seeking for that love and that nurturing. And I have a son, and he has special needs. So that's a whole host of other layers of challenges that I have to deal with. But I just really value that time and that connection.
That's such a good point. I remember seeing Layla Ali somewhere, and she was talking about her experience growing up, how to the world her father was just like this great man, but she didn't know that man. Like, she did not get that greatness that these strangers got because he was out being great for the world.
Right.
And I think so often we're so focused on making a better life for our kids that we're not focused on this life right now that they're living and really being active and intentional.
Right.
And we're thinking that we could just buy them the world, but no, they won't you. They don't care about all of that stuff.
And you know what I see? I see people throw that word around a lot. Intentional. I mean, we got to be intentional about this. We got to be
You
intentional.
annoyed with it?
Yeah. You know, it's no, but I feel that it's just become a word that people say.
It's
thrown around.
It doesn't hold any weight anymore.
Right. It sounds good, you know, just like mindfulness. But really, those are strong and important concepts that we should incorporate. And it's not something glib that we, you know, okay, I'm going to be intentional. But how does that demonstrate itself in the way that you connect with those that you love, you know?
So you mentioned you have a special needs son. I feel like the motherhood conversation is either for new moms, postpartum. We talk about postpartum. We talk about pregnancy, infertility, all of those things. I don't really hear the special needs mom ever entering the chat.
Right. It's a lonely place.
I can imagine. And I have close friends who I'm just like, mom period is rough.
Yeah.
Add on that extra layer and it's like, how?
Yeah.
And I truly mean how.
Yeah.
So for whether you're a single mom, your partner, whatever it is, for a special needs mom out there, any words of wisdom, encouragement, your experience, something that you wish you would have learned sooner, like what, just so that they can be included in the conversation.
I think it's important because when our children are developing, and if you feel like something is not quite right, what I've seen and what I've experienced myself and seen in conversations with others is that people talk them out of what their instincts are. So no, it'll be okay. You know, boys develop slower than girls. You know, whatever it is that these things that we say, largely because we want to, you know, pacify, to you know, we don't want to face it, and so we try to smooth it over. I would say to any person out there who has a child who they're questioning if things are the way that they should be, to follow your instinct and seek support. You know, talk first to your pediatrician. Sometimes the pediatricians will miss it too, but the moms don't miss it. The moms recognize that. And once you have a child who has been diagnosed, whatever their special needs are, to find a community. And sometimes those communities are hard. You know, nowadays, thankfully, there are some that are online that provide vital information so you can be informed. But there are so many challenges along the way, and you're right when you say they're missing from the chat. A lot of times they're missing from the chat because they're in a corner trying to figure it out.
Can I ask you what were the signs?
Yeah. So my son initially, the first thing that we saw was that he was having seizures. And which is really devastating.
How young?
Devastating to watch. He was less than 2.
Oh, man.
And so that was one thing. And then we recognized that he had started to talk and then regressed. And then after that, then, you know, he was very picky. And so, but because he was, during the early stages, he was making all of the milestone, everybody wanted to push it aside. But no, you know, I wasn't going to push it aside. So I had him in all the therapies. I did research. And so, you know, which my work world really helped me in this case, because after I was a mental health counselor, I returned to school, earned my PhD, and I'm a social and behavioral scientist, and my work is in research. And so I used all my skills to learn as much as I could about what were the best practices in the field, what were the things that were shown to be effective, and I got him in all those therapies. And this was before, you know, anybody, people weren't even assessing their child pre 2 years old. And particularly a lot of Black people have to wait till they go to school to get a diagnosis for their child. The teacher will recognize that, you know what, little Johnny,
He's not, something is, might want to get that checked out. And so my background is in education. I taught second and third grade, and I remember the IEP meetings, and these parents didn't know anything to be able to advocate for them, for their child. And when you don't know what you don't know, you show up in those meetings and you are dictated to. They tell you what's about to happen. And this is your baby. And I think so often, whether we're talking about even when you're pregnant, not being able to advocate for yourself, Black people especially, we got to stop feeling like the doctor is the end all be all. Like the doctor, the principal, the police, anybody with authority, we feel like they know better for us and for our family than we do. And we sometimes, a lot of times, are handing over our control. You're handing over your child, literally the health of your child, the future of your child, to someone who does not have that buy-in, someone who does not really truly, they say they care, but they're not going to have to pick up the pieces of what happens here, of the decision that's made. And so I think it's so important that we don't, as you said, just let people tell us what's about to happen or what's going on. And we as women, like, how many times have you been to the doctor, homegirl, and you like, doctor, something ain't right. I don't know what it is, but something is, I'm telling you, something is not right. And that doctor will look you right in your face and say, no, that's normal. No, that's not what it, and so it's that same feeling of like, no, I know. You cannot tell me that this is normal. And we have to be willing to get a second opinion and go to a different doctor and push the issue, because it could be life or death.
Absolutely.
So you went from, I'm like following your career path here. Okay, so did your son, was that experience what led you to going back to school, or did that come first?
No, it came first. And what led me to go back to school was going in those homes and seeing the patterns and wondering what were the connecting threads. Why is it that we have a disproportionate amount of Black youth, because I was working with the kids in the juvenile justice system. Why are so many of them Black? Why are so many of the people who look like me precariously housed? Why are the dads in jail? Why are the moms not nurtured? What is going on here? And so I really just had a desire to understand what was the system at play, because from my perspective, what I was seeing, I'm like, this cannot be chance. And so remember, I came from Jamaica, I went to high school, I went to college, so that was the experience. But now I'm an adult in the world navigating it, and I'm like, something's not right. And so when I went back to school, it was because I wanted to find a way to address social outcomes. And so I earned my doctoral degree, which equipped me to do that. It was a multidisciplinary degree that drew from criminal justice, social work, public affairs, and health, informatics, and research. And so it allows me to take a cross-sector approach at examining problems, because when you look at people, we're whole people, and we're impacted by a system that's connected, and we're using different language, so we call it disproportionate contact with the criminal justice system. You have achievement gaps in school. You have all of these things, and when you really think about them, you have disparities in health outcomes. It's the same phenomenon with the same undercurrent driving it, right?
What is that that's driving it?
It's the social determinants. It's structural racism.
It's the way the system is designed?
The way the system is designed.
So what do we do? Because let me tell you, I am not the type of person that wants to sit up here and have all these conversations about the problem. What's the solution? What can not just, I feel like also a part of the challenge with the Black community is we are very much individualized. Like I only care about my child, my family, my house, but we have to be more that village mindset, that community. So as a community, what can we do?
I think that it's important for us to recognize where our strengths are and lead movements, micro movements within our sphere of influence. it's like, so we might not have a platform that reaches, like you have a platform that's very huge, but everybody might not have that platform. I don't have that platform, but you know what I did as an entrepreneur who, in looking at the data, recognized that the Black women are starting all these businesses, and these businesses are fledgling, that we're making $24,000 a year, as compared to $198,000 by other people. I said, what can I do? My head is knee deep in disparities data. Everything I look at on a day-to-day basis is telling me that there's something wrong. And so, I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a way to teach people the path that I have taken with my consulting firm. Because when I went back to school and earned my doctoral degree, I decided that I wanted to focus on work that mattered to me. And the way that I found to do that was through consulting. And so all the dollars that come into my company are through contracts, whether through corporations, governmental entities, or otherwise. And I realized that this is something that I taught myself to do. Nobody wanted to show me anything. I've been a consultant. I've owned my company since 2008, right? Donkey years ago. And I'm still here. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to teach some women how to do this. It's small, it's micro, right? But what if I teach some people, and then they
go on and
they teach some people, and then the impact will not only be on their lives, but those who they employ and their families and their communities. What can we do? So sometimes I think that we take ourselves out of the solution creation process because we feel that it has to be grand.
I have to change the whole world, or I'm not even going to get started.
And so I did the first cohort of the Grants and Contracts Incubator. It ended in March, and just yesterday I found out that the third contract was awarded to it was a small group, like 12 or 13 women, because what I wanted to do I knew would be intense and take a lot of my time, but I see it already working, and I feel so proud of that. So in addition to the work that I'm doing in the community through my contracts to help to design interventions that are culturally responsive, gender responsive, I'm also doing a little part to try and give a sister
help who you can help.
Yeah.
So I was doing my research, and I want to talk about the contracts, but we got to talk about these grants, because you got over $300,000 in grants. I can't remember if it was 349, 369. I did read it though.
Yeah.
In your first year of business.
Yeah.
How?
It's actually not that hard. So the work that I do is designed to impact
communities.
Right. And so if you are doing work that is seeking to improve an outcome, there are dollars for that. There's $500 billion in grant funding a year through the federal government. We're not talking about the state government. We're not talking about all the local municipalities. So there's a lot of money out there.
And this is not just nonprofit.
No, my company's not nonprofit. My company's a for-profit corporation. So you have grants, you have cooperative agreements, and you have contracts. And so there are contracts as well designed to help you to implement whatever it is that you want to do.
Program.
I saw funding the other day that they were looking to buy 12 rhesus monkeys and some sheep. I'm telling you, there's contracts for toilet paper, there's contracts for consulting, there's contracts for mental health, there's contracts for monkeys.
What is
and
needed?
Grants.
What are the prerequisites? Is it different from contracts to grants?
They are similar, and that's why I teach the process jointly. But the process, the first thing that any individual would need to do would be to register their business with the federal government.
Okay.
And it's free.
That is the SAM.gov.
SAM.gov. You cannot apply for grants on grants.gov until you register on sam.gov.
Okay.
So you can search for the grants, but you have to have your entity registered on sam.gov to be able to apply for funding through grants.gov. And the most tedious part is the searching, because there's so much. It's not the absence of opportunities that make people overwhelmed. It's that there's so much. And when you're first starting, it's hard to filter and process, but it's a skill that you build over time. I would encourage everyone who is a small business owner to explore, get grants and contracts from the federal government.
It's been probably 5 years I've been playing around with this sam.gov thing. I'm not even gonna lie to you. And putting in applications for certification. Do I need to be certified?
I still am not. I would tell people and I've been doing this since 2008. The women who are in the current cohort and the past cohort, I told them that yes, they should go after the certifications that they're qualified for, and that's because as of last year, they increased the target for contracts and funding awarded to businesses that meet a certain criteria. And so you'll be able to designate yourself as such. But what people are not aware of is that you self-certify in sam.gov. So you designate yourself as a member of these.
I'm black. I'm a woman. I'm disadvantaged.
Exactly. And so the SBA process is a vetting process. So it gives you a certain amount of credibility in your business. I've been doing it so long and have enough past performance where you
don't need that. You got some respect on your name.
But yeah.
So for someone coming in new, because I think a lot of it, even these questions I'm asking you, I'm sure you can see a lot of this is like the limiting beliefs. It's like, well, I didn't even know that was possible. So because it's not possible, I didn't even attempt it. Yeah. Which I think we miss out on so many opportunities because we don't even try because we talk ourselves out of it. What realistically, I guess, because I'm not going to apply for a grant. Like, why would I apply for a grant? I'm not going to get a grant. Is it easier to get a grant versus a contract? Is it easier a contract versus a grant?
I'm telling you, they're cousins or twins. They're friends who love each other. The path and the process is very similar, and so as you're exploring one, it's like anything. They go together. Okay. So I explore opportunities for both. And so there's also cooperative agreements, which is another type of funding, which is similar to a grant, except that there is a lot of involvement by the funder. So they might have evaluators who work with you, or they might connect you to resources that they want you to offer to your community and so on, whereas grants are more independently administered, and then you have to do reports and so on. So 3 of those things you should be looking at.
Oh, I will be. I was checking out your training on your website. I was looking into it. I said $300,000 in the first year because one of those limiting beliefs was the nonprofit thing. That was one. Even though I do have a nonprofit, but I thought that like only nonprofits could get grants, and then the actually writing of the grant, because it really, I think, comes down to knowing how to submit this application.
You can do it because you are a teacher, so they provide you with everything you need to know and include. The reason why people don't do well is because they don't read. Because they're intimidated by a 60-page notice of funding opportunity.
Girl, that sounds very intimidating.
But it's not. Okay, listen, there's a lot of things that intimidate me, but what's not going to intimidate me is trying to apply for $750,000.
You're like, I'm going to figure that out.
You see what I'm saying? So if the barrier between me and that is 60 pages,
I'm going to read them 60
pages.
I'm going to
read those 60 pages.
Am I going to comprehend the 60 pages?
Yes, you will, because the thing is, the one thing that the government does well is that they're going to tell you exactly what it is that they're looking for. And so if we have a basis of understanding, then whatever we develop will be designed to respond to that with specificity. So you can do it.
So you're just
because
following
it's like
directions.
your rubric or whatever you
Used in the classroom.
yeah.
Got you. Okay.
That's called in the grants and contracts world is your evaluation criteria. So you look to the evaluation criteria page. I tell, I break down to how you use the information that they're telling you they're going to use to score you and create your proposal skeleton.
How long is the average proposal? 60 pages?
No, actually, the notices, the solicitation notice or notice of funding opportunity or RFP, whatever, request for proposal, they call it a lot of different things, are usually longer than what you're required to submit. So a lot of times you'll see 20 pages is very common. Sometimes 30 pages minus the attachments. So you'll have to, attach various things. You might have letters of support, resume for personnel who you might use and things like that.
I got to get out of my own way because all of that sounds like intimidating.
It's intimidating because you're not.
Because I've never done it before.
Exactly. And so there's always a certain amount of trepidation. You're like, oh my God. But then for me, at this point, I told the ladies last week, at this point, I'm unemployable. Right?
That part.
Because
I ain't got no choice. I can't go work for nobody.
No. And so, and there is the money that we are going after is small money in the scheme of things. You're looking for $1 million, a couple million,
a little million here or there. Yes, I am actually. Where are you, little million?
But I'm saying I'm not trying to.
No, I
be
get what
funny.
you're saying.
But in
the grand scheme of things, this little million.
They're trillions of dollars.
So, okay, so let's say, and I know this varies, but my curiosity is when I see people say, okay, I got $1 million contract for 12 months, so yada, yada, whatever. How much are they really getting out of that million? Because you got to take that and hire the people and do the things.
Yeah, so it depends on are you selling products or are you selling services and so on. So it depends, so it's when you think about anything that you're going to undertake, when you're thinking of should I respond to this proposal, you look at they have what's called a funding ceiling and then they have the funding floor. The least you can, they want you to request and the most that you can request on any
So there's parameters.
Yeah, there's parameters. And so when you're thinking about the product, process, service that you have in mind, then you're looking at the dollars and you're looking at what they're asking you to do and you're looking at the budget to see if it makes sense.
Gotcha.
Not everything makes sense, but a lot of it out there does make sense. And so you might go after, a 3-year, $4 million funding opportunity. Does all of that come in your pocket? No, it shouldn't, because you have to.
You got to do the thing.
You have to do the thing, and you may not be, as a sole proprietor, able to do the things all by yourself. So you would need
like subcontractors, right?
Right. Yeah, you can use you can have contracted staff. You can have, if you have staff within your own organization, and so they will have to be compensated. But you are in this business for a profit, so your price is the cost plus your profit.
Got you. What is the biggest difference or process? How is the process difference between government contracts and corporate contracts?
Yeah, what I've found is that on the corporate side is that the contracting process has been a little bit simpler in my experience. And so, there's not a whole down the road and through the valley and over the mountains. For me, the process has been fairly simple, and because from my experience, the folks who have contracted me for my services have been leaders of departments of large entities. So there's more flexibility in what they can do, or how
they're the decision makers.
They're the decision makers.
Gotcha.
And so even if you contract, you were an educator, even if you were supposed to get contracts with school systems or depending on what you're looking for funding for, some schools are site managed, and so the principal is in charge. So it's easier once you develop relationships to get opportunities
versus
like that.
Something that has to get approved by the school board or a lot of red tape.
Right,
Gotcha.
Right. So there's different paths for everyone, and it's not harder than anything else. everything that we do, there's going to be a hard some way, this is the hard that I've chosen. And I actually don't feel that it's hard. What I feel that it's, you have to pay attention. You have to be responsive to detail. You have to move with integrity. You have to provide services in excellence. Because when you do that, then you are making the path to your next contract shorter, because now people are coming to you, right? Instead of you always having to,
Okay, so if there's somebody out there watching with a limiting belief around, well, all of that sounds good, but what could I do? What are some of the skills or some of the services or some of the things that someone out there watching might already be qualified to do? They're just not thinking about it.
You can do anything. I'm telling you, when I say anything, I mean anything. When you think about the government gets people to do the things that they need to do, from roads and bridges to janitorial services to property management, to research and evaluation to mental health to
podcasting. Podcasting. You seen a podcast contract?
Well, I'll look for you.
Girl,
when I
look
go
for
back.
me once. See what's out there.
I'll look, because they, the other day I was looking at, they were looking for photography and social media marketing for an embassy overseas, or someone to do something in Rome. So there's opportunities.
This is global.
This is global because the United States government has
global.
Presence.
Got you.
Yeah,
that was it. That was a stupid
and
question.
actually,
Don't talk about me in the comments.
once you start doing this work, then you'll start to explore opportunities that are overseas, because 85% of the dollars
are leaving the country.
Are overseas.
Do you only do what you do, or because I've talked to people who are in the government contracting space, and they started out doing one thing, and then they realize that it really boils down to being like a project manager, and then they start doing, or do you stay like in your lane?
I'm in my lane firmly, and I suggest that people, particularly if you're just starting, do the same. I stay in my lane, and I will stay in this lane because I really enjoy my work. So I do 4 things: research, evaluation, training, and technical assistance around a core, my core competence, right?
Gotcha.
And so I don't do anything outside of that. I don't look for anything outside of that, because the reason I chose this path is because I really want to impact change in the community.
In this space.
Right. This
Gotcha.
is what I want to do. This is what moves me. And so when I do it, it might be long hours sometimes, but I never feel like, dang, I can't stand what I'm doing. I really enjoy what I'm doing. And so, no, I teach the ladies in the cohort core competence. We see social media. I see a lot of things on social media. You get a LLC, and then
Get
you
an
do
Airbnb,
this,
get a Turo,
yeah, and then you get a contract, and you sub it out, and you take the money. First of all, some of the things that they're saying are illegal.
A lot of it is illegal. They're going to jail. A lot of y'all are going to jail. The feds is watching.
They are.
They're watching on these podcasts. Y'all ain't not up in here though. Not up in here. Okay, not up in here.
Yeah.
Very good info though, because I do think that we are missing out on so many opportunities because we're stuck in this one way of doing it. And I don't know about you, but I'm starting to notice and feel this shift of like the social media entrepreneur is starting to be over with.
Yeah.
Like you can't just get on Instagram and make your whole income anymore. That is
Yeah, and that's what I say. It's like, I just showed up over here. It's like I've been told, you have to be here. But that's not my world of work,
right. Like I'm doing real work in real life.
Exactly, in a real community.
Yeah.
For real governments and real corporations, So, but I would say to the woman who is sitting there and wondering if she can, yes, you can. And the thing that is pulling you, that you're moving away from or pushing back, is the thing that is the seat of your power, right? And that is the basis of the funding that you'll get. If you can find work that's in alignment with that thing that makes you tick.
I'm getting excited thinking about it because we waste a lot of time doing things that we're not interested in,
Yep.
that we're not excited about, that we have no desire to do based on what we think we have to do, based on survival mode, based on outside influences. And if you can find that sweet spot of like what really, really like gives you joy, what brings you passion, and it gets you paid,
Yes.
that's what we're looking
It's
for.
a beautiful thing.
So you're going to walk them into the promised land. When is your next cohort?
You know, I don't, not till next year.
Now you done just did all this teasing.
No, it's, you know, it's like people, but you remember how you just asked me, or do I'm not just teaching about this. I'm
You're
actually
living this.
I'm living this, and I love my life. That's why I'm going back home right after I leave here, because my bed is comfortable. Right?
So you
And
like, y'all gotta get in where you fit in because I'm
yeah,
really doing
no,
this.
I did one and it was beautiful, and I did the second one and it's beautiful. I haven't set the date for the third one, but I do have a waiting list.
Okay.
And so people can sign up for that if they want to be made aware of it. But there are, you know, and sometimes I do question and answer session where it's an hour or more of me really just answering people's questions, and specific questions about what path can they take, or does this make sense, or, you know. But the key thing that I would say is that there are resources that are available that are at no cost. To register on sam.gov, there's no cost to that. When you go on Google and you search it, you're going to see companies that pop up that say $600 or $1,000. You don't do that. You register for free. You go to grants.gov for free. You register for that for free, and you start learning. You just playing around with it. I say scroll for dollars. If you want that feel of just scrolling down like you do on Instagram, go on grants.gov, go on sam.gov, and scroll through the opportunities. You know, it will help you. It'll inspire you.
It'll probably open up your mind to
Yeah.
what's possible.
Yeah.
Because again, we think we have to sell one-to-one. I got to start a lash line. I
Yeah.
got to, you know, we're all doing the same thing. I start a t-shirt company. I got to same thing over and over, and we're missing out on so much money.
If you want to start a t-shirt company, start the t-shirt company, but don't sell one off. Go on sam.gov and get a contract.
and sell 1,000 t-shirts. They got t-shirt contracts?
Yes. Because think about the military and their uniforms, and when they're jogging on the street and it says U.S. Army, they buy that from a contractor. They buy the shorts, the little ROTC outfits that the kids in high school. One of the persons in the incubator was just looking at that. There's
there.
everything that you sell.
They're buying it.
Yeah, there was a contract that I just saw the other day for a cosmetology instructor. So it's there. We are talking ourselves out of a path.
The path to freedom is what it really sounds like. And let's full circle moment. If we go back around to slavery, it's time to get your money back. Okay? All of that money that money back, okay? That the country that you built on your back, it's time for them to pay you back.
Yeah.
And we could drop the mic on that. So I don't even know. You can send the people to your website, but it ain't nothing there for them. But the wait list,
Unless you got a contract.
unless you got a contract.
Yeah, I don't sell to.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, where can they find the wait list?
Oh,
Where can they find you online?
Yeah, they can go to Dr. Loren, DrLauren JOSEPHS, Dr. Loren Josephs on Instagram.
And
the
don't
other
even go
stuff.
to the website because
Yeah,
she ain't
or
got
I'm on
nothing.
LinkedIn too, because that's where.
If you got, that's where she hangs out with the big coins, with the contracts, with the coins, baby. So if you got a contract for Dr. Loren,
Yeah.
holla at your girl. If you got a contract for me, holla at me. Okay, speaking that thing into existence. I have enjoyed you.
I
So much good information.
I love
Let
it.
me in the next cohort.
Yep, come on.
Okay, I'm gonna
Even
get on
in
the wait
between,
list.
I'll tell you.
I can't wink, but look, even in between, your girl get it where she fit it. And
Yeah.
listen, y'all already know when I find out new information, I'm bringing it to you.
Yeah.
So don't be hating, because I'm gonna get in where I fit in. Okay, I'm gonna come right back here and tell y'all everything I learned, because truly, all jokes aside, we gotta stop playing. Girl, stop playing. Okay, we gotta stop playing with our potential. We gotta stop playing with our future. We have to stop talking about this generational wealth that's just gonna fall out of the sky, and we have to start being intentional and strategic about how we are creating it. So thank y'all for tuning in to this episode. Comment below and let me know something that you've learned, because I know you've learned a lot, okay? You might need to hit the replay, go back, rewind it, like drag this thing back so that you can get your notebook out and take some notes on the opportunities that you are about to go apply for right now, today. SAM.gov, grants.gov. Follow Dr. Loren on Instagram. And make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on next week's show. I'll see you right back here. Love you. Peace. If you enjoyed that episode, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any upcoming content. And take it a step further and go ahead and join our private community over on Patreon, because it comes with some pretty bomb perks, including early and discounted access to our upcoming events, behind the scene exclusives with some of your favorite guests, the opportunity to call in on an upcoming show, the chance to vote on topics and guests for brand new shows, and I'm even giving you unlimited access to my vault of business classes where I'm teaching you everything from Airbnb to developing digital products and everything in between. And you can get access to our Patreon for as little as $5 a month, okay? Get in where you fit in, and I'll see you on the inside.